Tom Reed stared through the massive window of the transport ship as Research Station Horizon came into view. The station hung in space like a giant metal star, its 5 arms stretching out from a central hub. Each arm held different research labs and containment units, making the station one of the largest wildlife research centers in the galaxy. "First time on Horizon?" the pilot asked, noticing Tom's wide-eyed expression. "Yes," Tom replied, adjusting the badge on his new uniform. The words "Wildlife Specialist" gleamed under the cabin lights. 6 years of study and 2 years of field work had finally led to this moment. The ship docked smoothly at one of the station's many ports. Tom gathered his few belongings and followed the signs to the reception area. The station's artificial gravity felt slightly stronger than Earth's, making his steps heavier than usual. A tall man with gray hair and sharp eyes waited for him. "Welcome to Horizon, Mr. Reed. I'm Mark Jones, lead researcher. Your credentials are impressive, but I need to be clear about something." He gestured for Tom to follow him through the security checkpoint. They walked down a long corridor lined with reinforced windows. Through them, Tom could see various alien creatures in carefully designed habitats. Some floated in special tanks, others prowled in environments that mimicked their homeworlds. "This isn't a regular wildlife station," Mark continued. "We study the most dangerous species in known space. One mistake here doesn't mean a bite or a scratch. It means death." Tom nodded seriously. "I understand, sir. That's why I requested this posting. Regular wildlife study doesn't challenge us to think differently anymore." Mark stopped at a large display screen and pulled up the security feed. The image showed a dark containment cell where something moved in the shadows. Even through the grainy footage, Tom could see its movements were unnaturally smooth, like liquid darkness. "This is why I called you in specifically," Mark said, his voice dropping lower. "We call it the Shadow Stalker. It's killed 23 researchers across different stations. We finally managed to capture one 6 months ago." Tom leaned closer to the screen, fascination clear on his face. "What do we know about it?" "Not much. It's intelligent, scored surprisingly high on cognition tests. But it's also lethal. Every attempt at study has ended in violence. Most of the staff won't go near Containment Block D anymore." As they continued their tour, other researchers shared their warnings. Each had a story about the Shadow Stalker. One woman showed Tom a deep scar on her arm, the only person known to survive an attack. "It was just playing with me," she said, her voice shaking, like a cat with a mouse. Later that evening, Tom sat in his new quarters, reviewing the Shadow Stalker's file on his tablet. The creature's test results caught his attention. Its problem-solving scores were off the charts, yet all notes described it as purely aggressive. Something didn't add up. Tom looked out his small window at the endless stars. Most people would see this assignment as a death sentence, but he saw something else, a mystery. Years of working with Earth's most dangerous predators had taught him one thing: violence usually had a reason. He pulled up more files, reading deep into the night. The Shadow Stalker's containment cell was designed by the galaxy's best minds, yet the creature had nearly escaped twice. Not through brute force, but through clever manipulation of the security systems. "This isn't just a predator," Tom muttered to himself, making notes. "This is something else entirely." A soft chime interrupted his thoughts. A message from Mark. "Block D is off limits to junior staff. Don't get any ideas." Tom smiled slightly as he sent back a simple acknowledgement. But his mind was already working on ways to observe the Shadow Stalker safely. Something about this creature called to the core of his being, the part that had made him choose this career in the first place. He believed every creature, no matter how dangerous, had a story to tell, and he intended to be the first person to hear the Shadow Stalker's tale, even if it meant bending a few rules along the way. As he finally prepared for sleep, Tom glanced one last time at the creature's file photo. In the darkness of its cell, 2 eyes gleamed with an intelligence that seemed almost lonely. Tomorrow, he would begin his real work. Not just studying the deadly predator, but understanding what might be the most misunderstood creature in the galaxy. 3 days passed before Tom found his chance. The night shift was smaller, and security was more relaxed. He made his way to Block D, his footsteps echoing in the empty corridors. His ID badge would only get him to the outer observation room, but that would be enough for now. The room was cold and dark, lit only by the soft glow of monitoring equipment. Through the reinforced window, he could see into the Shadow Stalker's habitat. The space was large, filled with various terrain types: rocky outcrops, dense vegetation, and open areas. All of it was watched by dozens of cameras and sensors. Tom sat quietly in the darkness, tablet in hand, ready to take notes. For 2 hours, nothing moved. Then, a shadow shifted differently than the others. The creature emerged into a patch of artificial moonlight, and Tom held his breath. It was beautiful in a dangerous way, like a storm at sea. Its body was sleek and dark, covered in what looked like shifting plates of shadow. But its movements weren't aggressive. They were careful, almost graceful. The Shadow Stalker approached one of the habitat walls and began making marks with one of its claws. Tom leaned forward, interested. The marks weren't random scratches. They formed patterns, repeating every few feet. "You're marking your territory," Tom whispered, making notes. But why so precisely? As if hearing him, the creature turned. Its eyes, glowing with a soft purple light, fixed directly on the observation window. Tom knew he should feel afraid, but he didn't. Those eyes didn't show hunger or aggression. They showed intelligence, and something else. The Shadow Stalker moved closer to the window, its head tilted slightly. Tom remained still, heart pounding but determined not to show fear. The creature raised one of its limbs and began tracing patterns on the window, similar to the marks on the wall. Tom quickly pulled up the station's records. None of the previous reports mentioned this behavior. He started recording with his tablet, documenting every movement. The pattern stopped. The Shadow Stalker waited, those purple eyes fixed on Tom. "You want me to respond," Tom realized. He found the observation room's light controls and flicked one on and off, copying the simple pattern. The reaction was immediate. The creature's plates shifted color slightly, showing hints of blue instead of pure black. It made a new pattern, slightly more complex. Tom spent the next hour exchanging patterns with the Shadow Stalker. Each sequence grew more complicated. It wasn't just mimicry. The creature was building on each pattern, adding new elements. "This isn't aggression," Tom muttered, reviewing his notes. "You're lonely. All those attacks. Were they just fear?" A noise in the corridor made Tom freeze. The morning shift would start soon. He quickly shut down his tablet and stood up. The Shadow Stalker watched him prepare to leave. It made one final pattern on the window, a simple circle with a line through it. Tom didn't understand its meaning, but he sensed it was important. "I'll come back," he promised quietly. "We're just getting started." As he walked back to his quarters, Tom's mind raced with possibilities. The creature wasn't just intelligent. It was trying to communicate. All this time, it had been reaching out, but nobody had thought to reach back. He was so lost in thought that he almost ran into Mark in the hallway. "Early morning, Tom," Mark asked, his eyes narrow with suspicion. "Couldn't sleep," Tom replied easily, still adjusting to station time. Mark nodded slowly. "Remember what I said about Block D, that creature in there? It's not what you think it is." "No," Tom agreed, thinking of those intelligent eyes and careful patterns. "I don't think it is what anyone thinks it is." Back in his quarters, Tom began organizing his notes. He needed proof before he could share his discovery. The Shadow Stalker wasn't just making random patterns. It was trying to tell them something. And Tom Reed intended to be the first human to listen. Tom spent 3 days designing his light communication system. He borrowed some equipment from the maintenance bay and modified it to create patterns of colored lights that could be controlled from his tablet. It wasn't exactly against the rules, but it wasn't exactly allowed either. The real problem would be getting it into the observation room without being noticed. He chose his moment carefully. The shift changed between night and morning, when the station was at its most chaotic. With the device hidden in his work bag, Tom made his way to Block D. His heart beat faster with each security checkpoint, but his face remained calm. The observation room was empty, just as he'd hoped. Working quickly, Tom set up his equipment. The shadow stalker appeared almost immediately, as if it had been waiting for him. "Let's try something new," Tom said softly, tapping his tablet. A sequence of blue lights danced across the window. The creature watched intently. Then, using its natural ability to shift its plate's color, it repeated the pattern perfectly. Tom added more complexity. Different colors, different timings. The shadow stalker matched each one. "You're not just copying," Tom realized. "You're learning." He began recording everything on his tablet, documenting each exchange. The creature wasn't just smart. It was adapting its responses, creating new patterns that built on Tom's originals. It was teaching him as much as he was teaching it. The door hissed open behind him. "I thought I might find you here," Mark said, his voice tight with anger. 2 security officers stood behind him. Tom's stomach dropped, but he stood his ground. "Sir, I can explain. Look at this." He gestured to his tablet, where the latest exchange was recorded. "Turn off that equipment," Mark ordered. "Now." "Please, just watch for 1 minute," Tom insisted. He sent another pattern of lights. The shadow stalker immediately responded, adding a new element to the sequence. Mark stepped closer to the window, his expression changing from anger to disbelief. "That's deliberate communication. It's been trying to talk to us all along," Tom said. "We just never gave it the chance." The shadow stalker moved closer to the window, its purple eyes fixed on Mark. Slowly, deliberately, it created a new pattern, one that combined elements from all their previous exchanges. Mark watched in silence for a long moment. Finally, he turned to the security officers. "Wait outside." After they left, Mark crossed his arms. "You broke at least 6 station protocols." "Yes, sir." "You accessed restricted areas without authorization." "Yes, sir." "You modified station equipment without permission." "Also yes, sir." Mark sighed heavily. "You have 1 week." Tom blinked in surprise. "Sir, 1 week to prove this isn't just tricks or mimicry. Show me real communication, real intelligence. If you can't," Mark's expression hardened, "you'll be on the next transport back to Earth." After Mark left, Tom turned back to the window. The shadow stalker was watching him with what almost looked like concern. "Don't worry," Tom said. "We're just getting started." He thought for a moment, then added, "You need a name. Something better than shadow stalker." The creature stood tall, its plates shifting in a wave of dark colors. Despite the danger it represented, there was something majestic in its bearing. "Rex," Tom decided. "It means king in an old Earth language. What do you think?" The newly named Rex responded with a brilliant display of shifting colors that lit up the entire habitat. Tom smiled. "Rex it is." He checked the time. 5 hours until his next shift. "We've got work to do, Rex. 1 week to show them who you really are." As he set up new testing sequences, Tom felt more certain than ever. He wasn't just studying an alien creature anymore. He was getting to know someone. And somehow, he had to make everyone else see it too. 4 days into his 1-week trial, Tom made his biggest breakthrough. He was showing Rex images of different environments, trying to learn about its home world, when the station's lights flickered. Rex immediately stopped their usual communication pattern. Instead, it began making sharp, urgent movements toward one corner of its habitat. Tom checked the monitoring systems, but they showed nothing unusual. "What is it?" Tom asked, more to himself than Rex. "What are you trying to tell me?" Rex's plates shifted to a deep red color, something Tom had never seen before. The creature pointed again at the same corner, then made a pattern that Tom recognized from their earlier conversations. It was the symbol Rex used for danger. Tom pulled up the habitat's maintenance schematics on his tablet. That corner housed part of the containment cell's power system, including the radiation shielding, Tom whispered. He quickly called up more detailed scans. There it was, a tiny crack in the shielding, leaking dangerous radiation into Rex's habitat. The leak was too small to trigger the station's main alarms, but somehow Rex had sensed it. He hit the emergency maintenance call button. Within minutes, a team arrived to repair the damage. As they worked, Mark appeared in the observation room. "How did you spot this?" he asked, reviewing the maintenance logs. "The sensors didn't even pick it up yet." "I didn't," Tom admitted. "Rex did. It was trying to warn us." Mark watched as Rex followed the maintenance team's progress, its eyes alert but not aggressive. "All this time," he said slowly, "we thought it was attacking people. But the first deaths were in groups," Tom finished. "I checked the records. Every fatal incident involved multiple people approaching at once. But look at this." He pulled up footage from the past few days, showing his solo interactions with Rex. "It's not aggressive when approached alone," Mark realized. "Because that's how they live," Tom explained excitedly. "Rex has been teaching me about its species. They're solitary by nature. Groups are seen as threats. But when they do form bonds," he showed Mark more footage, displaying Rex's careful communication patterns. "Those bonds are deep and complex," Tom continued. "All those test scores we couldn't understand. Rex's species isn't just intelligent. They're advanced, but they think differently than we do. They communicate through patterns, colors, and movement. We were trying to study them like animals when we should have been treating them like people." As if to prove his point, Rex created a new pattern on the window. A complex sequence of colors and shapes that Tom now recognized as a story. It was showing them how it had detected the radiation leak. Mark watched in silence for a long time. Finally, he said, "The council needs to see this." "Sir, you've got 2 more days in your trial. Get everything ready. I want a full presentation, all your findings, all your evidence." Mark's stern expression softened slightly. "You might have just changed everything we thought we knew about them." After Mark left, Tom turned back to Rex. "Thank you," he said simply, "for trusting me enough to show us." Rex's plates shifted to a soft blue color that Tom had come to associate with contentment. The creature began a new pattern, one Tom hadn't seen before. It was beautiful, intricate waves of color and light that filled the entire window. Tom watched in wonder, understanding what this was. Rex wasn't just communicating anymore. It was sharing something personal, perhaps even artistic. This was trust, freely given. As he began recording this new pattern, Tom smiled. In just a few days, he had gone from studying the supposedly deadly predator to learning from an intelligent being. And soon, the whole galaxy would understand what he had discovered. Rex wasn't just the most lethal predator in known space. It was probably one of the most remarkable people Tom had ever met. The emergency alarms woke Tom at 3 a.m. station time. Red lights flashed in his quarters as the station's AI made an announcement. "Warning. Primary power core malfunction. Backup systems at 40% capacity and falling." Tom rushed to pull on his uniform, but before he could reach the door, the lights went out completely. Only the dim emergency strips along the floor remained lit. His tablet buzzed with an urgent message from Mark. "Main power grid failing. Containment systems compromised. All staff evacuate to secure zones immediately." Tom's blood ran cold. Containment systems compromised meant every dangerous creature in the station might soon be free. He started running toward Block D, using his tablet's light to guide him through the darkened corridors. The station shuddered. Through the windows, Tom could see entire sections going dark. In the distance, something roared. One of the larger specimens must have already escaped. His tablet buzzed again. "Where are you?" Mark's message read, "Get to secure Zone B now." Tom typed back quickly, "Have to check on Rex first." "That's an order. Read." The containment fields are failing. Every predator in this station will be loose in minutes. But Tom kept running. He had to reach Rex before the containment field failed. Not to keep Rex in, but to let Rex out safely. He knew now that in a crisis, Rex would be their ally, not their enemy. He reached Block D just as another violent shudder ran through the station. The observation room's backup lights flickered weakly, showing him a terrifying sight. The massive reinforced door to Rex's habitat was opening and closing randomly as its systems failed. Through the window, Tom could see Rex moving anxiously, its plates shifting between warning colors of red and orange. The creature had already figured out something was terribly wrong. Tom's fingers flew across the control panel, trying to override the safety protocols. Nothing worked. The station's computer systems were in chaos. A crash echoed from somewhere nearby, followed by the sound of tearing metal. Whatever had escaped was getting closer. Tom made his decision. He grabbed the emergency manual release lever for the observation room's door. It took all his strength to pull it, but the door finally slid open. Now only the containment field separated him from Rex. The creature pressed close to the energy barrier, its purple eyes fixed on Tom with what looked like concern. "I'm going to get you out," Tom said, working on the field controls. "But I need your help. The station is in danger. There are people trapped here. Will you help me protect them?" Rex's response was immediate, a pattern of colors that Tom now recognized as agreement. More than that, it was a promise. The containment field flickered and died. Tom held his breath as Rex stepped into the observation room. For the first time, nothing separated them. The creature moved with incredible grace, stopping just in front of Tom. This close, he could see the intricate patterns in Rex's shifting plates, like stars moving in a dark sky. Another crash, much closer this time. Something was definitely coming their way. Rex moved to stand between Tom and the door, its plates hardening into what Tom now knew was battle armor. The creature created a quick pattern of lights across its surface, the symbols for protect and together. Tom nodded, pulling up the station schematics on his tablet. "There are emergency bunkers in each section. We need to find any trapped staff and get them to safety. Ready?" Rex's answer was to move toward the door, body tensed and ready. Through their weeks of communication, they had built trust. Now that trust would be tested in the most dangerous way possible. Together, they stepped out into the darkened corridor, ready to face whatever horrors had been unleashed on the station. The station's emergency lights cast strange shadows as Tom and Rex moved through the corridors. Every few minutes, distant roars and crashes reminded them that they weren't the only ones loose in the station. Rex suddenly stopped, plates shifting to a warning red. A moment later, Tom heard voices, frightened whispers coming from a sealed laboratory ahead. "Hello," he called out softly. "This is Tom Reed, Wildlife Division. Is anyone in there?" "Reed?" A shaky voice responded. "The door's jammed. The emergency release isn't working. There are 4 of us trapped in here." Tom started toward the door, but Rex moved first. The creature's plates shifted, forming patterns that Tom recognized as calculations. Rex was studying the door mechanism. "Stand back," Tom called to the people inside. "We're going to get you out." Using its claws with surprising delicacy, Rex began manipulating the door's manual release system. Tom watched in amazement as the creature worked, understanding now why the test scores for mechanical aptitude had been so high. The door slid open with a grinding noise. Inside, 4 researchers huddled against the far wall. When they saw Rex, their eyes went wide with terror. "It's okay," Tom said quickly. "Rex is here to help. We're getting everyone to the secure zones." "The Shadow Stalker," one of them whispered. "But it's—" Before they could finish, a thunderous crash came from the corridor behind them. Something huge was moving their way, tearing through walls as it came. Rex's plates shifted to battle mode, hardening into armor. The creature moved to stand between the humans and the approaching threat. Around the corner came one of the station's most dangerous specimens, a massive reptilian beast with armored scales and far too many teeth. It had already wounded itself breaking free, and that made it even more dangerous. The beast charged forward, but Rex was faster. Tom watched in awe as Rex used both strength and intelligence, dodging the larger creature's attacks while maneuvering it away from the humans. "Run!" Tom shouted to the researchers. "Follow the emergency lights to secure Zone B. We'll keep it busy." They didn't need to be told twice. As they ran, Tom grabbed a fallen piece of equipment, a metal rod that might serve as a weapon. When the beast lunged at Rex again, Tom struck its sensitive nose, making it rear back. Rex used that moment to strike, plates flowing like liquid metal as it targeted weak points in the beast's armor. The two creatures fought with incredible speed, but where the beast was all rage and instinct, Rex fought with precision and planning. Finally, Rex managed to drive the beast back into an empty storage room. Tom slammed his hand on the emergency lockdown button, and reinforced doors slid shut, trapping the creature inside. Rex's plates shifted back to their normal state, though Tom noticed they were rippling with exhaustion. The creature turned to check if Tom was injured, making a pattern that asked safe. "I'm okay," Tom assured it. "That was amazing. You could have just run, but you stayed to protect everyone." Rex's response was a pattern that combined duty and friend. Tom's tablet buzzed. A message from Mark. "Main power restored in 10 minutes. All escaped specimens except 3 contained. Where are you?" "Block C," Tom replied. "Rex and I just saved 4 researchers and contained the Razor Beast. Going to help find the last 3 escapees." There was a long pause before Mark's next message. "The Council's emergency response team is watching everything through the security feeds. They can't believe what they're seeing." Tom looked at Rex, who was already alert and ready to move on to their next rescue. "Then let's give them something worth watching," he said, ready to show them what real trust looks like. Rex's plates glowed with a pattern that needed no translation, pure determination mixed with loyalty. Together, they moved deeper into the station, ready to face whatever came next. The galaxy was watching, and every moment proved that friendship could overcome even the deepest fears. 2 weeks after the station crisis, Tom stood before the Galactic Science Council. The Grand Chamber was packed with representatives from dozens of worlds, all eager to hear about the events at Research Station Horizon. But Tom wasn't alone. Behind him, in a specially designed area, stood Rex. The creature's plates shifted in calm, confident patterns that only Tom could fully understand now. "Members of the Council," Tom began, "for years, we've called Rex's species the Shadow Stalkers. We classify them as the galaxy's most lethal predators. We were wrong. They're not just predators. They're one of the most intelligent species we've ever encountered." The chamber's main screen displayed footage from the station crisis. The Council watched as Tom and Rex worked together to save trapped researchers, contain dangerous creatures, and protect the station. "Every death we blamed on them was a misunderstanding," Tom continued. "Their species is solitary by nature. Large groups appear as threats, but when approached properly, with respect and patience, they're capable of forming deep bonds." An older council member leaned forward. "You risked everything on this belief. Your career, your life. Why?" Tom smiled. "Because sometimes you have to trust your instincts. Everything in Rex's behavior told me there was more to understand. All we had to do was listen." Rex moved forward, its plates creating a complex pattern of lights and colors. The council chambers fell silent as the creature began to share its own story, tales of its home world, its people's ways, and its hopes for the future. Thanks to Tom's work, the council chamber was now equipped with translation screens. The audience watched in amazement as Rex's patterns turned into words, revealing thoughts and ideas as complex as any they'd heard. "This changes everything," the council head announced. "Mr. Reed, we're creating a new division, the Cooperative Species Research Initiative. We want you to lead it." Tom blinked in surprise. Lead it? Your method of building trust and understanding will become the new standard. No more cages, no more assumptions. We'll approach each new species as potential friends first. They're calling it the Reed method, Mark added from his seat nearby. He looked proud, despite all the rules Tom had broken along the way. Rex created a pattern that the translation screen showed as, "We wish to help. There are many others like me, waiting to be understood, waiting to share knowledge." The council head nodded. Then it's decided. Mr. Reed, you and Rex will be our first official human shadow stalker research team. Your first mission will be to visit Rex's homeworld as ambassadors. Tom turned to Rex, seeing his own excitement reflected in the creature's glowing purple eyes. They had come so far from those first careful pattern exchanges through the observation window. "There's one more thing," Tom said. "We need to change their species name. Shadow Stalker was based on fear. They deserve a name that reflects who they really are." Rex's plates shifted in a pattern that Tom recognized as agreement. Together, they had already discussed this. "They call themselves the Luminary," Tom announced. "It means those who speak through light." As if to demonstrate, Rex created a stunning display of shifting colors and patterns that filled the chamber with dancing lights. The council members gasped in wonder. Later, as they prepared to leave the chamber, Tom looked at his friend. "Ready for our next adventure?" Rex's response was a pattern combining the symbols for explore, learn, and together. Tom smiled. In just a few weeks, they had changed how the galaxy saw one of its most feared species. But more importantly, they had proven something that humans had always believed, that friendship and trust could bridge any gap, overcome any fear, and open doors to incredible possibilities. As they walked out together, Tom thought about all the other misunderstood species waiting to be discovered. Thanks to one human's willingness to listen and one luminary's courage to trust, they would all have a better chance to be seen for who they truly were.